The morning sun rose over New Esperanza like any other day. Children played in the gardens while their parents worked in the mines. The colony had been peaceful for 23 years. 50,000 people called this distant world home. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked to her communication station with a cup of coffee in her hand. She worked as the head of communications for the entire colony. Every day she sent reports back to Earth about their mining operations and daily life. The messages took 18 months to reach home through the vast emptiness of space. Elena loved her job. She felt like a bridge between her people and Earth. Even though they were so far away, those daily messages kept everyone connected to home. Today felt special because it was the anniversary of the first landing on New Esperanza. She sat down at her desk and began typing the daily report. The mining teams had found a new deposit of rare minerals yesterday. The hydroponics farms were producing more food than ever before. Crime was almost zero. Life was good on New Esperanza. Then the alarms started screaming. Elena dropped her coffee cup. The hot liquid splashed across her desk and ruined her reports. But she didn't care about that anymore. Those alarms only went off for one reason: incoming ships. She ran to the main communication center. Other workers were already there, staring at the screens in shock. Captain Rodriguez, the colony's military commander, was shouting orders to his small security force. "How many ships?" Elena asked. 57 vessels detected, reported Tom Chen, her assistant. His voice was shaking. "They're big, Elena. Much bigger than anything we've ever seen." Elena looked at the screen. The ships were massive and dark. They moved in perfect formation toward New Esperanza. These weren't human ships. The design was completely alien. Sharp angles and curved surfaces that hurt to look at. "Try to communicate with them," Captain Rodriguez ordered. Elena sat at her station and opened all communication channels. "Unknown vessels, this is New Esperanza Colony. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." Silence filled the room. Everyone held their breath and waited. Then a voice answered. It was deep and harsh, speaking perfect English with a strange accent. "Humans of this world, you will surrender immediately. Resistance will result in death. You have 1 hour to comply." The transmission ended. Fear spread through the communication center like a cold wind. "What do we do?" asked Tom. Captain Rodriguez was already on his radio calling his security teams. "We have 30 armed guards and some mining equipment. They have 57 warships. The math is simple." Elena stared at her communication equipment. Earth was 18 months away. By the time any message reached home, everyone on New Esperanza would be dead or enslaved. But she had to try. "Captain, I need to send a message to Earth right now." "Do it fast," Rodriguez said. "I don't think we have much time." Elena's fingers flew over her keyboard. She activated the quantum burst transmitter, the most powerful communication device on the planet. It used enormous amounts of energy and could only be used in emergencies. She typed quickly. "Emergency transmission to Earth Defense Force. New Esperanza Colony under attack by unknown alien force. 57 hostile vessels. Request immediate assistance, coordinates attached. Send help." She hit the transmission button just as explosions rocked the colony. The alien ships had started their attack. Bright energy beams struck the colony's defense towers. The small shield generators overloaded and exploded. The main power plant took a direct hit and went dark. Elena's communication array sparked and died. Her screens went black. The quantum burst message was sent, but now they had no way to communicate with anyone. "Everyone to the emergency shelters," Captain Rodriguez shouted. But Elena knew it was too late. Through the windows, she could see dark shapes landing near the colony. The alien ground forces were coming. The landing craft were as ugly as the warships. They looked like giant insects made of metal. Ramps dropped down and soldiers marched out. The aliens were tall and thin, covered in dark armor. They carried weapons that glowed with dangerous energy. The colony's small security force tried to fight back. Captain Rodriguez and his guards used their rifles and mining explosives. They destroyed 2 landing craft and killed several aliens. But more ships kept landing. For every alien they killed, 10 more took its place. Elena watched. from her hiding place in the communication bunker. The aliens moved through the colony like they had done this many times before. They didn't kill everyone. Instead, they herded people together like cattle. Families were separated. Children cried for their parents. One alien seemed to be in charge. It was bigger than the others, with golden markings on its armor. It walked through the colony giving orders. This creature looked at the humans like they were nothing more than animals. Elena heard someone translating the alien language. The leader was called Warlord Kethvar. He commanded this invasion force. He spoke about humans like they were a weak species that would be easy to break. These soft creatures will work in our mines, Kethvar told his soldiers. They will dig until they die. Then we will find more humans to replace them. But Kethvar was wrong about one thing. The humans weren't giving up. Elena saw Captain Rodriguez organize the survivors. Even though they were prisoners, he quietly passed messages between the groups. People began to hide supplies and make plans. The aliens had won the first battle, but the war wasn't over. As the days passed, the aliens built their own base on top of the human colony. Giant machines arrived to strip mine the planet. The beautiful gardens where children had played were torn up and replaced with mining equipment. The humans were forced to work 18 hours a day. They dug in the mines under the hot sun. The alien guards were cruel. They gave little food and water. Anyone who worked too slowly was punished. But Elena noticed something important. The aliens didn't understand humans very well. They thought breaking their bodies would break their spirits. They were wrong. During the night shifts, Elena and the other survivors whispered to each other. They shared news and kept hope alive. Captain Rodriguez organized small acts of resistance. Workers would slow down production or break mining equipment. It wasn't much, but it was something. "Do you think anyone on Earth received your message?" Tom asked her one night. Elena looked up at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, impossibly far away. "I don't know," she said. "But I have to believe they did. Even if they got the message, how could they help us? We're too far from home." Elena smiled sadly. "You don't know much about Earth, do you? They've never left their people behind, not once in all of human history." Warlord Kethvar thought he had won. He walked through his new mining operation with pride. His species, the hegemony, had conquered 47 worlds. Humans were just another weak race to be enslaved. But late at night, when the alien guards weren't watching, Elena would look up at the stars and whisper the same words over and over. "Earth will come. Earth will come." She didn't know if anyone could hear her. She didn't know if her message had reached home, but she believed in her people. Somewhere in the darkness of space, help was coming. The message was traveling toward Earth at the speed of light. In 18 months, someone would read her desperate plea for help, and then the universe would learn what happened when you threatened Earth's children. 18 months later, the message from New Esperanza reached Earth. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park was working the night shift at the Deep Space Monitoring Station. It was a quiet job most of the time. She listened for signals from the distant colonies and watched for any unusual activity in space. Tonight felt like any other night. Then her computer started beeping urgently. Sarah looked at her screen and saw something that made her heart stop. An emergency transmission from New Esperanza colony. The quantum burst signature meant this was the most serious type of message possible. She opened the file with shaking hands. As she read Elena's desperate words, the blood drained from her face. Alien attack. 57 hostile vessels. Send help. Sarah grabbed her phone and called Admiral Chen immediately. Admiral Chen was the head of the Terran Defense Force, the military organization that protected Earth and its colonies. "Admiral, we have an emergency transmission from New Esperanza. You need to see this right now." 20 minutes later, Admiral Chen arrived at the monitoring station. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had served in the military for 30 years and had seen every kind of crisis imaginable. But this was different. Admiral Chen read the message 3 times. Then she sat down heavily in a chair and stared at the wall. "How long ago was this sent?" 18 months, Admiral. The signal just reached us." Then they're already dead or enslaved, Admiral Chen said quietly. New Esperanza is too far away, there's no way to help them. But even as she said those words, Admiral Chen was thinking about something else. Something that had been hidden from the public for decades. Something that might change everything. 4 hours later, Admiral Chen stood before the Global Defense Council in Geneva. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat around the massive conference table. These were the most powerful people on the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Chen began, we have received confirmation that humanity is not alone in the universe, and that confirmation came in the form of an attack on one of our colonies. She played Elena's message for the council. The room fell silent as they listened to the desperate plea for help. President Martinez of the Americas Federation spoke first. Admiral, New Esperanza is over 400 light-years away. Even our fastest ships would take decades to reach them. You're correct about our public ships, Admiral Chen replied. But there are things you don't know about our military capabilities. She pressed a button on her tablet. The lights dimmed, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed the outer solar system beyond Neptune and Pluto. What the council members saw made them gasp in shock. Hidden among the asteroids and ice fields were hundreds of structures, massive shipyards, training facilities, and weapon platforms. And docked at these secret bases were ships unlike anything the public had ever seen. For the past 50 years, Admiral Chen explained, we have been building the Warfleet program. Every nation contributed resources and personnel. We built this fleet in secret because we knew this day would eventually come. The hologram zoomed in on one of the ships. It was enormous, bristling with weapons and armor, sleek and deadly, designed for one purpose: war. How many ships? Asked Prime Minister Zhang of the Asian Coalition. 300 warships of various classes, 50,000 trained Marines, and the most advanced technology humanity has ever developed. Chancellor Weber of the European Union leaned forward. You built all this without telling us? Your predecessors approved this program 60 years ago, Admiral Chen said. Every leader since then has been briefed when they took office. The secret has been kept by 30 different administrations across all nations. But why the secrecy? President Okafor of the African Federation asked. Admiral Chen's expression grew serious. Because we knew that if the public learned we were building weapons of this magnitude, they would assume we were preparing for war with each other. The truth is, we were preparing for something much worse. She gestured at the hologram. These ships are not designed to fight humans. They're designed to fight aliens. Species that might be more advanced than us, more aggressive than us. And as we can see from New Esperanza, that threat has finally arrived. The council members looked at each other nervously. President Martinez spoke again. Admiral, even with this secret fleet, New Esperanza is still too far away. That's where you're wrong. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. Show them the Darwin Project. The hologram changed to show a new type of ship. It was smaller than the warships but covered in strange geometric patterns. The Darwin Project has been developing experimental jump drive technology for 20 years. We can fold space and travel vast distances almost instantly. The journey to New Esperanza will take 2 years instead of 40. 2 years is still too long, said President Martinez. The colonists will be dead by then. Maybe, Admiral Chen admitted. But if we don't respond, the aliens will think humans are easy prey. They'll attack other colonies. Eventually, they'll come here to Earth. We have to show them that attacking humanity has consequences. The debate continued for 3 hours. Some council members worried about the cost. Others questioned whether they should reveal their secret weapons to an alien enemy. A few argued that New Esperanza was already lost and not worth risking the entire fleet. But Admiral Chen had spent 30 years thinking about this moment. She knew exactly what to say. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a simple choice. We can hide behind our defenses and hope the aliens never find Earth. Or we can show the universe what happens when someone attacks our people. She stood up and looked each council member in the eye. Humanity has never abandoned its own. Not in any war, not in any crisis, Not once in our entire history. We don't leave people behind. That's what makes us human. The vote was unanimous. Admiral Chen left the meeting and immediately traveled to the hidden fleet base beyond Neptune. As her transport ship approached the secret facility, she felt a mix of pride and fear. The Warfleet was beautiful and terrifying. Hundreds of ships hung in space like sleeping giants. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and dreadnoughts. Each one represented years of work by the best engineers and designers on Earth. The flagship was the largest warship ever built by humans. Admiral Chen had named it the Terra's Wrath. It was 2 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could crack open a moon. Within hours, the entire fleet was mobilizing. 50,000 Marines reported to their ships. Weapons were loaded and tested. The jump drives were prepared for the longest journey in human history. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of Terra's Wrath and watched her fleet prepare for war. These ships had been built in secret and maintained in hiding for decades. Now they would finally serve their purpose. Admiral, her communications officer reported, "All ships are ready for departure." "Send a message to every ship in the fleet," Admiral Chen ordered. "We are going to rescue our people on New Esperanza. We don't know what we'll find when we get there. We don't know if anyone is still alive, but we're going anyway because that's what humans do." She paused and looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that vast darkness, their people were waiting for help. "We are Earth's children, and we never abandon our own. Fleet, prepare for jump." The Warfleet vanished into hyperspace, beginning the long journey to New Esperanza. Behind them, Earth continued its daily life, unaware that humanity's greatest military force was racing across the galaxy to answer a cry for help. The universe was about to learn that attacking humans came with a price. The journey through hyperspace was like traveling through a tunnel made of stars. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of Terra's Wrath and watched the swirling colors outside the viewports. The fleet had been traveling for 6 months now, making jump after jump toward New Esperanza. Each jump brought them closer to their destination, but it also brought them closer to an enemy they knew nothing about. The aliens had attacked with 57 ships. They had conquered an entire human colony in hours. What kind of weapons did they have? How advanced was their technology? These questions kept Admiral Chen awake at night. "Admiral," called Captain Torres from his station. "We're receiving the daily training reports from all ships." Admiral Chen nodded. During the long journey, she had kept the entire fleet busy with constant combat drills. The Marines practiced boarding actions in the cargo holds. The pilots ran flight simulations 18 hours a day. Every weapon system was tested and retested. The humans had advantages that the aliens probably didn't expect. Earth had spent centuries fighting wars against itself. Every battle, every conflict, every military innovation had been carefully studied and improved upon. The human military was built on thousands of years of warfare experience. But the aliens might have advantages too. Advanced shields, better weapons, superior technology. Admiral Chen couldn't let herself think about that. She had to focus on what her people could do, not what they couldn't. "How are the Marines holding up?" she asked Captain Torres. "Colonel Rodriguez reports that morale is high. The troops are eager to fight. They've been studying everything we know about the enemy." Admiral Chen smiled. Colonel Marcus Rodriguez was one of Earth's best military officers. He had volunteered to lead the ground assault on New Esperanza when he learned that his brother had been the security chief of the colony. This mission was personal for him. Meanwhile, on New Esperanza, the situation was getting worse every day. Dr. Elena Vasquez had lost 30 pounds during her time as a prisoner. The aliens worked their human slaves 16 hours a day in the mines. Food was scarce. Medical care was almost non-existent. Many of the older colonists had already died from exhaustion, but Elena refused to give up hope. She had organized a secret resistance movement among the prisoners. Using hand signals and whispered messages, they coordinated small acts of sabotage against their captors. Last week, they had caused a cave-in that destroyed 3 alien mining machines. The week before, they had contaminated a shipment of refined minerals. It wasn't much, but it was something. Warlord Kethavar was growing frustrated with the human prisoners. His species, the hegemony, had conquered 47 worlds. Usually, the conquered people became submissive within a few months. They accepted their fate and worked obediently until they died. But humans were different. No matter how brutally they were treated, they continued to resist. They sabotaged equipment, they slowed down production, they spread messages of hope among themselves. These creatures are defective, Kethvar told his second-in-command. On other worlds, the slaves are grateful for the chance to serve the hegemony. These humans act like they still have hope. Perhaps we should execute more of them as examples, suggested the other alien. I've already killed hundreds, Kethvar replied. It only makes the others more defiant. When we execute their leaders, new leaders appear. When we separate families, they adopt each other. I don't understand this species. What Kethvar didn't understand was that humans had something his species lacked: the absolute refusal to abandon their own people. Every human on New Esperanza believed that Earth would come for them eventually. That belief kept them alive when their bodies wanted to give up. Elena had become the unofficial leader of the resistance. At night, when the alien guards weren't paying attention, she moved through the prisoner camps and spread her message. Earth will come. How do you know? Asked Maria Santos, a teacher whose husband had died in the mines. Because I sent them a message, Elena replied. And because I know our people. Humans don't leave each other behind. But even if Earth received your message, how could they reach us? We're too far away. Elena looked up at the stars. I don't know how they'll do it, but I know they'll try. Earth has resources we never knew about. Military secrets, advanced technology. They've been preparing for something like this, she was guessing, but her words gave people hope. And hope was the most powerful weapon the humans had. Back on the Warfleet, Admiral Chen was studying intelligence reports about the hegemony. Her ships had intercepted alien communications during their journey. The translation computers had finally cracked their language. What she learned made her blood run cold. The hegemony was an empire spanning dozens of star systems. They had been conquering worlds for over 1,000 years. Their military philosophy was simple: overwhelming force, brutal suppression, total domination. But they had never faced organized resistance. Most species surrendered quickly when they realized they couldn't win. The few that fought back were completely destroyed. The hegemony didn't believe in taking prisoners from military forces. Admiral, reported Lieutenant Commander Park, we've detected something interesting in their communications. The hegemony commander on New Esperanza is requesting additional ships. Why? Admiral Chen asked. Apparently, the human prisoners are causing more trouble than expected. They're sabotaging equipment and slowing down the mining operation. Admiral Chen felt a surge of pride. Even as prisoners, her people were still fighting. What's the status of our fleet? All ships operational. Jump drives are holding up well. We should reach New Esperanza in 18 months. Admiral Chen hoped that would be fast enough. Every day that passed meant more colonists would die in the mines, but there was nothing she could do to make the journey faster. The jump drives were already pushed to their maximum safe limits. She spent her time planning the attack. The alien fleet had 57 ships patrolling the New Esperanza system. Her fleet had 300 ships, but they were smaller than the alien vessels. The battle would come down to tactics, training, and determination. Human pilots had advantages that alien pilots probably lacked. They had trained in Earth's competitive military academies. They had studied every battle in human history. Most importantly, they were fighting to save their own people. Colonel Rodriguez was planning the ground assault. His Marines had trained for every possible scenario: urban combat, underground fighting, hostage rescue operations. They were ready for anything the aliens could throw at them. The key, Rodriguez told his officers, is speed and surprise. We hit them hard and fast before they can execute the prisoners. But Admiral Chen knew the real challenge would be finding survivors. It had been over 3 years since the attack on New Esperanza. How many colonists were still alive? Were they being held in camps, or had they been scattered across the planet? She thought about Dr. Elena Vasquez, the woman who had sent the distress call. Was she still alive? Was she still fighting? Admiral Chen hoped so. The galaxy needed people like Elena Vasquez. As the months passed, The Warfleet continued its journey through hyperspace. The ships had become small cities with 50,000 people living and working in the metal corridors. Friendships were formed. Romances blossomed. A few babies were even born during the journey. But everyone understood why they were there. They were traveling across the galaxy to rescue people they had never met. People who might already be dead. People who were counting on Earth to remember them. Admiral Chen often walked through the ship corridors and talked to her crew. She wanted to understand what motivated them. Why had they volunteered for this mission? The answers were always the same. There are people, Admiral. We don't leave people behind. That simple philosophy had carried humanity through every crisis in its history. Now it was carrying them across the stars. Finally, after 2 years of travel, the fleet approached the edge of the New Esperanza system. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge and felt her heart racing. Soon they would know if anyone was still alive on the distant world. Admiral, called the sensor officer, we're detecting multiple alien ships in the system. Confirmed 57 vessels. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. The aliens were exactly where they expected them to be. Battle stations, she ordered. It's time to show them what happens when you attack humanity. The Warfleet prepared for the largest space battle in human history. The Terran Warfleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the New Esperanza system, like ghosts materializing from the void. 300 ships appeared in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of the distant sun. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of Terra's Wrath and studied the tactical display. Her scout ships had been watching the system for 3 days, gathering intelligence on the enemy positions. Report, she ordered. Lieutenant Commander Park looked up from her console. 57 alien vessels confirmed. 43 are patrol, ships scattered throughout the system. 14 heavy cruisers are orbiting New Esperanza itself. Admiral Chen nodded. The aliens had arranged their fleet exactly as she had hoped. They were spread out, confident in their dominance. They had no idea that death was approaching from the outer system. What about the planet? We've detected mining operations on the surface. Large installations built over the original colony sites. We're picking up human life signs, but they're concentrated in specific areas. Admiral Chen's heart jumped. Life signs meant survivors. After 4 years, there were still humans. Alive on New Esperanza, her people had endured. Now it was time to bring them home. Colonel Rodriguez, she called to the Marine commander. Are your troops ready? Colonel Rodriguez stepped forward. His face was hard as stone, but his eyes burned with determination. His brother had been the security chief of New Esperanza. This was personal. 50,000 Marines ready for deployment, Admiral. We'll get our people out. Captain Torres, status of the fleet? All ships report ready for combat. Weapons charged, shields at maximum, jump drives standing by for tactical movement. Admiral Chen looked out at the stars. Somewhere ahead in the darkness, an alien fleet was patrolling peacefully. They thought they had won. They thought humanity was too far away to matter. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Begin Operation Homecoming, Admiral Chen ordered. All ships execute attack pattern Alpha. The Warfleet split into 3 groups and moved toward New Esperanza from different angles. They used the system's asteroids and moons for cover, approaching the alien fleet like hunters stalking prey. Admiral Chen commanded the main battle group, aimed directly at the planet. Captain Torres led the second group toward the outer patrol ships. Commander Singh took the third group to cut off any alien ships that tried to escape. For 12 hours, the human ships moved silently through space. Their engines ran cold to avoid detection. Their weapons were powered down to minimum levels. To alien sensors, they looked like asteroids or space debris. The alien commander, Warlord Kethvar, was in his command center on New Esperanza when the attack began. He was reviewing mining reports and planning the next phase of strip mining operations. The humans had proven more troublesome than expected, but they were still useful slaves. His communications officer suddenly looked up in alarm. Warlord, we're detecting unknown contacts throughout the system. Contacts? Kethavar moved to the tactical display. How many? Sensors are having difficulty getting accurate counts. The contacts appear to be very numerous. Before Kethavar could respond, space around New Esperanza erupted in brilliant flashes of light. The human attack began with perfect coordination. Admiral Chen's ships emerged from behind the planet's largest moon and opened fire on the orbital defense stations. Railgun projectiles traveling at incredible speeds smashed into alien installations. Fusion torpedoes detonated against enemy shields, in brilliant explosions. At the same moment, Captain Torres attacked the outer patrol ships. His destroyers and cruisers appeared from the asteroid field like wolves emerging from a forest. The alien ships were caught completely off guard. 30 vessels were destroyed in the first 10 minutes of combat. The alien ships were larger and more heavily armed than the human vessels. But Admiral Chen had advantages that Kethavar didn't understand. Human ships were faster and more maneuverable. Human tactics were based on centuries of warfare experience. Most importantly, human crews were fighting to save their own people. Evasive maneuvers, Admiral Chen ordered as alien energy beams lanced toward her flagship. Terra's Wrath rolled and twisted through space, its armor deflecting glancing hits while its own weapons returned fire. The space battle was unlike anything in human history. Massive ships exchanged devastating fire at ranges of thousands of kilometers. Smaller vessels darted between the giants like fighter planes, launching torpedo attacks and providing cover for damaged allies. Commander Singh's group completed the encirclement, trapping the alien fleet between 3 human battle groups. The aliens tried to form defensive formations, but the humans were too fast and too coordinated. "Admiral," reported the tactical officer, "enemy fleet strength is down to 31 ships. We've lost 6 vessels." Admiral Chen felt each loss like a physical blow. Those ships contained brave men and women who had traveled across the galaxy to rescue strangers. But she couldn't think about that now. The battle was still raging. Warlord Kethavar watched his fleet being systematically destroyed and felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. In 1,000 years of conquest, the hegemony had never faced an enemy like this. These humans fought with a fury that was almost supernatural. "How many enemy ships?" he demanded. "Over 200 confirmed, Warlord. Possibly more. Their fleet is much larger than our initial estimates." 200? Kethavar couldn't believe it. The humans were supposed to be a primitive species confined to a single world. How had they built such a massive fleet? "Warlord, should we execute the human prisoners as planned?" Kethavar considered this option. The standard hegemony protocol was to kill all prisoners when faced with rescue attempts. It denied the enemy their objectives and provided a psychological advantage. But something made him hesitate. These humans had traveled impossible distances to reach this system. They had built a fleet that rivaled the hegemony's best forces. They were fighting with a desperation that suggested the prisoners meant everything to them. Maybe the prisoners were more valuable as hostages than as corpses. On the planet's surface, Dr. Elena Vasquez heard the explosions in orbit and looked up at the sky. Bright flashes of light were visible even in daylight. The sounds of battle echoed across the landscape. "What's happening?" asked Maria Santos, the teacher who had lost her husband. Elena smiled for the first time in 4 years. Earth came. The alien guards were running around in confusion, receiving contradictory orders through their communication systems. Elena realized this might be their only chance to help their rescuers. She passed word through the secret resistance network. "Start the uprising, now." Throughout the prison camps, human prisoners began to act. They overwhelmed guards who were distracted by the space battle. They seized alien weapons and communication equipment. They fought with tools and bare hands against their captors. Colonel Rodriguez watched the space battle from his transport ship and waited for his moment. His Marines were loaded into assault craft, ready to storm the planet as soon as the orbital defenses were neutralized. "Colonel," called his communications officer, "we're receiving transmissions from the planet's surface. Human resistance fighters are engaging alien ground forces." Rodriguez smiled grimly. Even after 4 years of captivity, his people were still fighting. "Patch me through to all Marine units. It's time to go get our people." The space battle reached its climax as Admiral Chen's flagship faced Warlord Kethvar's command ship in single combat. The two massive vessels circled each other like ancient gladiators, trading devastating blows. Terra's wrath shuddered under alien fire. Armor plating was torn away, internal systems overloaded and caught fire. But the human ship kept fighting, its weapons carving deep wounds in the alien vessel. "Admiral," called the damage control officer, "we're losing life support on decks 7 through 12. Hull breach in Section 4. "Keep firing," Admiral Chen ordered. "We're not backing down." The final blow came from an unexpected source. Captain Torres, commanding the destroyer Phoenix, managed to slip behind Kethvar's ship during the chaotic battle. His torpedo spread struck the alien vessel's engines and caused a cascade failure. Kethvar's flagship began to break apart. Explosions rippled along its hull as power systems failed and weapons magazines detonated. "Warlord," his communications officer reported, "the ship is lost. We must evacuate to the surface." Kethvar looked at the tactical display one last time. His fleet was destroyed. 43 ships were burning wreckage. The surviving vessels were fleeing the system or trying to surrender. He had underestimated humanity. These weren't primitive creatures confined to a single world. They were a species that had built a secret military fleet and hidden it for decades. They were warriors who would travel across the galaxy to rescue their people. As his escape pod launched toward New Esperanza, Kethvar realized that the hegemony had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened something that should have been left alone. The space battle was over. The human fleet controlled the orbital space around New Esperanza, but the real fight was just beginning. 50,000 Marines were preparing to land on the planet and face whatever horrors awaited them on the surface. Admiral Chen stood on her damaged bridge and looked down at the world below. Her people were down there somewhere. After 4 years of captivity, they were finally going to be free. "All ships," she broadcast to the fleet, "Prepa." The first wave of assault ships screamed through New Esperanza's atmosphere like falling stars. Colonel Marcus Rodriguez stood in the lead transport, watching the planet's surface grow larger through the viewport. After 4 years, he was finally going to see what had happened to his brother. 2 minutes to landing zone," called the pilot. Rodriguez turned to his Marines. 50,000 of Earth's best soldiers were packed into hundreds of assault craft. They had trained for this moment during the 2-year journey across space. Now it was time to put that training to use. "Listen up," Rodriguez announced over the communication system. "Our people have been prisoners for 4 years. They've suffered, they've died, but they've also survived, and they're fighting back as we speak." Through the viewports, the Marines could see explosions on the planet's surface. Fires burned across the landscape where human prisoners were fighting their captors. "Our job is simple," Rodriguez continued. "Find our people. Kill anyone who tries to stop us. Bring everyone home." The transport ships landed in a coordinated assault across multiple sites. Ramps dropped down and Marines poured out, their weapons ready. What they found shocked even these hardened soldiers. The beautiful colony of New Esperanza had been transformed into an industrial nightmare. The gardens where children had played were now open pit mines. The homes where families had lived were bulldozed and replaced with alien factories. The entire planet looked like a wound carved into the earth. But the worst sight was the prison camps. Rodriguez's unit approached the largest camp and found thousands of humans living in conditions that were barely survivable. People were thin and sick, wearing rags for clothing. Children looked up at the Marines with eyes that had seen too much suffering. "My God," whispered Sergeant Williams, one of Rodriguez's most experienced soldiers. "What did they do to them?" Before Rodriguez could answer, he heard a familiar voice, calling his name. He turned and saw a woman walking toward him. She was thin and dirty, but her eyes burned with an inner fire that 4 years of slavery hadn't been able to break. "Dr. Elena Vasquez," Rodriguez said with a smile. "The woman who called for help." Elena looked at the Marine colonel and felt tears running down her face. "You came. You actually came." "We're humans," Rodriguez replied. "We don't leave people behind." Elena led Rodriguez through the camp, showing him the conditions where the colonists had been living. She introduced him to the other survivors, including Maria Santos, the teacher whose husband had died in the mines. "How many of you are left?" Rodriguez asked. "About 32,000 from the original 50,000 colonists," Elena replied. "We lost a lot of people, especially in the first year. The aliens worked us 18 hours a day with almost no food." Rodriguez felt rage building in his chest. His brother's name was on the memorial wall that Elena showed him. Captain Rodriguez had died defending the communications center during the initial attack. "Where are the aliens now?" Rodriguez asked. "Most of them retreated to their command bunker when the space battle started," Elena said. "But their leader, Warlord Kethvar, is still here somewhere. He's been trying to contact his remaining forces." As if summoned by her words, explosions erupted across the landscape. The alien command bunker was firing its remaining weapons at the marine landing sites. "All units, we have hostile contact," Rodriguez announced over his radio. "Begin assault on alien positions." The battle for New Esperanza's surface was different from the space combat. This was personal and brutal. The Marines fought their way through alien fortifications while human prisoners joined the fight with captured weapons. Elena found herself carrying a rifle and fighting alongside the Marines. After 4 years as a slave, she finally had the chance to fight back against her captors. The aliens fought desperately, but they were outnumbered and surrounded. Human forces attacked from all sides while more Marines continued landing from orbit. The alien defenses crumbled under the coordinated assault. Warlord Kethvar made his final stand in the central command bunker. He was surrounded by his last 50 soldiers, all that remained of the force that had conquered New Esperanza 4 years earlier. "Warlord," reported his communications officer, "all our orbital ships are destroyed. The ground installations are falling. We have no way to escape." Kethvar looked at the tactical display and saw the truth. Red markers showed human forces approaching from every direction. His empire's greatest triumph had become its greatest defeat. "Prepare to execute the remaining human prisoners," he ordered. "If we cannot win, we will deny the enemy their victory." But it was too late for revenge. Colonel Rodriguez and his assault team broke through the bunker's defenses before the execution order could be carried out. The final battle was fought in the narrow corridors of the alien command center. Rodriguez found Kethvar in the central control room, standing over a control panel that would have released poison gas into the prison camps. The alien commander was reaching for the activation switch when Rodriguez shot him. Kethvar fell to the floor, his golden armor cracked and smoking. He looked up at the human colonel with eyes full of confusion and fear. "How?" was all he managed to say. Rodriguez knelt down beside the dying alien. "You made one mistake, Warlord. You thought we were just another weak species you could conquer and enslave." Kethvar's eyes were growing dim, but he listened as Rodriguez continued. "But humans are different. We never give up, we never stop fighting, and we never, ever abandon our own people." The alien commander died with those words in his ears. The battle for New Esperanza was over. Admiral Chen's fleet controlled the space around the planet. Colonel Rodriguez's Marines had secured the surface. The surviving colonists were finally free. But the work was far from finished. The survivors needed medical attention, food, and transport back to Earth. The planet's ecosystem had been damaged by 4 years of strip mining. The alien installations had to be studied and dismantled. Elena stood in the ruins of her old communication center and looked up at the stars. Admiral Chen's flagship was visible as a bright point of light in the evening sky. "Doctor," called Maria Santos, approaching with a group of other survivors. "What happens now?" Elena smiled. "Now we go home, but first, we have a message to send." She activated a temporary communication array that the Marines had set up. The quantum burst transmitter was damaged, but the regular radio still worked. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, former communications officer of New Esperanza Colony," she broadcast toward Earth. "To everyone listening, we want you to know, we're alive, we're free, and we're coming home." She paused and looked around at the Marines and colonists working together to rebuild their world. "To anyone else who might be listening in the galaxy, we have a message for you too. We are humans. We take care of our own. We will travel across the stars to rescue our people, and if you threaten us, we will find you. The message would take 18 months to reach Earth, just like her original distress call, but Elena knew that when it arrived, people would celebrate in the streets. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of Terra's Wrath and watched the rescue operations on the planet below. Transport ships were carrying survivors up to the fleet's medical facilities. Engineers were assessing the damage to the colony's infrastructure. Marines were hunting down the last alien holdouts. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Commander Park, "we've received a priority transmission from Earth Command. Put it through." The holographic display showed the familiar face of Fleet Admiral Jackson, Chen's superior back on Earth. "Admiral Chen, congratulations on a successful mission. The Global Defense Council has authorized me to inform you of new developments." Chen frowned. New developments usually meant more problems. "We've detected alien communication signals from 12 other star systems. It appears the Hegemony Empire is much larger than we initially estimated." The display showed a map of nearby space with red markers indicating alien positions. There were dozens of them, scattered across hundreds of light years. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Chen asked. Fleet Admiral Jackson smiled grimly. "Your orders are to prepare the fleet for extended operations. The Hegemony now knows about humanity. They'll either try to negotiate or they'll send a much larger force to destroy us. And if they send a larger force, then we'll show them what happens when someone starts a war with Earth." Admiral Chen looked out at her fleet. 300 ships, battle-tested and victorious. 50,000 Marines who had just proven themselves against an alien enemy, the most advanced military technology humanity had ever developed. The rescue of New Esperanza was complete, but it was only the beginning. The galaxy had learned about humanity today. Some species would want to be friends, others would see humans as a threat to be eliminated. "Communications," Chen ordered. "Send a message to all human colonies. Tell them that Earth's Warfleet is operational and patrolling human space. Any colony that needs assistance should send a signal. We'll be listening." She turned to her tactical officer. "What's the status of our jump drives?" "Fully operational, Admiral. Where are we going?" Admiral Chen looked at the star map showing alien positions throughout the galaxy. There were probably human colonies out there that didn't even know they were in danger. Alien empires, they